Okay, GEVOs. Whether you love them or hate them, they are the mainstays of our modern rail networks, both in America, Canada, and a few other places overseas. But those look more cooler, let's be real. Of the companies that owns them, we have these. What is a CitiRail? Is it someone's cracked-ass fictional railroad that you could find on a small Instagram account? I don't know, I can't write. In tonight's video, let's talk about GEVOs from a leasing company, of all things. Citicorp Railmark Incorporated, otherwise known as CitiRail, is a locomotive leasing group first formed on May 13, 1970, as a subsidiary to Citibank, which is also a subsidiary to Citigroup, an investment banking company located in New York. As for CitiRail itself, it was what you expected for a leasing company, offering locomotives as leasing power for other railroads to use. From what I was able to find, they rostered a few SD60s and Dash 8s from Union Pacific, which spent their years operating on leasing agreements with CSX and Norfolk Southern. However, with many of these locomotives being sold off to other railroads, it left CitiRail with little to no locomotives of their own. Instead of acquiring more hand-me-down power like most leasing companies, CitiRail made a big brain move when they called up the homies at General Electric asking to cook up new locomotives. The result? These. Throughout the next 4 years, CitiRail would receive its collection of GEVOs from General Electric, with the first 15 being delivered in 2012, then another 50 in 2013, 35 in 2014, and finally 25 more in 2015, with the last order being built to Tier 4 credits, which means while they were Tier 3 locomotives, they featured energy-saving technologies to offset them between Tier 3 and Tier 4 requirements by the EPA, while also not being Tier 4 locomotives? I don't know if I can explain that well, but if anyone can clarify in the comments, let me know. So yeah, while not the first time a leasing company bought locomotives straight from a manufacturer, this was among the more recent examples, at least in the 2010s. In total, CitiRail acquired 125 new locomotives, sporting the company's own leasing livery, which consisted of a rather gray base for the scheme, with a stripe of blue running along the bottom of the nose and through the sides, with yellow striping along the front, which wrapped onto the sides of the nose. Kind of like Norfolk Southern locomotives in a way. The company name was applied on the long hood of the locomotives, and the reporting mark alongside the row number was applied underneath the cab windows. So yeah, a somewhat simple-ish livery, but also not too complex. Throughout the 2010s, CitiRail's fleet of GEVOs were leased over to BNSF, as they were frequently seen on hot intermodals, the grimy coal trains. And with the rise of oil traffic and slow stability of the economy, the C-Rex units aided in the rise of freight traffic on BNSF. A few were also leased over to Canada, with Canadian National and Canadian Pacific allegedly taking a few, as both railways were struggling with additional motive power, often leasing out locomotives from other railroads. And this was especially prevalent in 2018, when CN would take in plenty of rent-a-wreck locomotives to aid in a rise of freight traffic, which included the 1500 series of GEVOs, a majority of them being sent over to our syrup-drinking hellhole called Canada. But with the decade coming to a close, a shift in operations would determine the fate of these silver bullets. As we all know, but the drastic changes that PSR brought, such as increased train lengths, slashed workforce, and roster reductions, the need for leased locomotives quickly evaporated, seeing as BNSF already had an abundance of locomotives to handle the decreased amount of traffic. And by that I'm referring to their GEVO fleet the size of a crowd at a Taylor Swift concert. Because of this, the CitiRails were starting to see storage lines more often than revenue service, with the mass fleet of leased GEVOs spending the pandemic year of 2020 rotting in storage lines across America. But then came the question, what was their fate? They're way too new to be scrapped, but where would they go? Class 1s already have enough GEVOs as it is, and not many regional railroads could support a mass fleet of modern ACs, and short lines are out of the question. However, one railway would give them a new home. Remember Canadian National? Well, starting in April of 2021, CN purchased 75 of the CitiRail GEVOs to add into their roster of plentiful, copy-paste, boring as hell, uninteresting snorefest of a GEVO fleet as a likely replacement for the remaining Dash 8s. Wonderful. They continued the numbering pattern left off from the AC GEVOs, being numbered 3913 to 3987. Receiving a quick patch job and nothing else. One noteworthy unit is number 3974, as it was vandalized around 2023 with a sprayed-on Conrail logo on the engineer's side of the long hood. Whoever did that really had good taste. But 75 wasn't enough, as CN wanted more. As in 2022, they purchased the remaining 47 GEVOs, numbering them into the late 2700 series, bringing the total fleet up to 122 CitiRail GEVOs. Wait, hold on. 125 GEVOs were built for CitiRail, yet 122 were purchased by CN. 3 of them are missing. Where'd they go? Well, thanks to the word that we call research, the 3 missing units are 1331, 1504, and 1505. And thankfully, we know their fates. 1331 was damaged in a wreck around 2019 while on BNSF trackage, and information on what exactly happened is unknown, but 1331 was way too damaged to be repaired and was subsequently scrapped on BNSF property. 1504 and 1505, on the other hand, were shipped overseas to Africa, as they were purchased by ArcelorMittal. If I butchered that by any chance, I apologize. A multinational steel manufacturing corporation. As of today, the Xerox duo marshal ore trains to and from the company's facilities in Liberia, still sporting their CitiRail colors in the hot climates of Africa. So yeah, the CitiRail GEVOs were what you expect from leasers, serving for railroads under various lease agreements for a few years, then being forgotten about in storage lines, and then being sold either to another railroad in America or going abroad. And it's good to say that CN, and by extension ArcelorMittal, continues to make good use of them, giving them a fulfilling life, where they continue to haul freight for who knows how long. I'll admit though, the Xerox GEVOs are miles better compared to a CN painted GEVO since, well, at least they add some color to an otherwise copy-paste roster of the exact same liver! But hey, that's just me. Or maybe I do think CN's paint scheme is mid.